So I'll give a recap of what we did yesterday. So we are trying to configure Hibernate in the Spring Boot application. So the first step is we have added the entries in the pom.xml, entries for the dependency entries for Hibernate, and then the Spring starter data JPA, which is Java Persistence API, and XML bind. So these are the jars which are needed to configure Hibernate with the Spring Boot. So once I add these entries, I will be getting in the Maven dependencies. I will be getting the jars here. Here it is Hibernate, and then Spring Boot starter data JPA. So we have this here, and Java XML bind API. So we have it here. So these are the jars we have received from the internet. So to know how to add these entries, I'll repeat once again. So you have to go to Maven repository. Search for Maven repository. So this is a complete repository of all the jar files which are needed for Java. So this here you can search any jar file for your project. It has every single jar file which is used by the Java, the Maven repository. So I want to use Hibernate, means I will type here Hibernate. So these many jars have come in. You just need to pick the correct version. That's all it is. Hibernate core. For that, just some practice is needed to know which jar has to be used. So Hibernate ORM core. If I go into this, so I can see these many jars. So these are all alpha versions, and I need a stable version. So this is not the one then. Hibernate. Let me type this. org.hibernate. That's Jackson Spring 4. This is relocation, not this one. Hibernate common Hibernate. This is OGM. So I was mentioning about this. Let me go, and I just want to show you how to retrieve it. That's all. So if we go to Hibernate, any of this jar, okay, there is a final version. This is a final. If I go into this version, I can see the entries. First is the Maven entry. See, copy it to clipboard. We have to paste it in the pom.xml. If you are using Gradle tool, this is another entry. This you have to copy and paste it. So these are all automated build come deploy tools. These are the available tools. So we are using Maven for the training purpose. And most of the cases, Maven will be used. But again, it depends on the project you are working on. So we copied this and we paste it in the pom.xml file. Okay, so once the jars are downloaded, we will now be able to unlock and use the classes and the methods which are provided in the jar. So the first step is done. The second step is we create a repository, which is this is where the Spring Boot integrates itself with the Hibernate. So we create this is our own interface. We extend the JPA repository and we provide in the domain name, the Java class which we want to access. So which we are mapping in the main program, we were mapping it in the configuration file. So once this is done, I give it as at component and at repository annotation. Then the third is data source details has to be given, that we give it in the application.properties file. It will be there in the SRC main resources. So these are the standard entries which Spring is going to take. The left hand side is a key equal to, right hand side is a value. So give these details, and then so once that is done, we are ready to use the Hibernate. The Spring will automatically integrate. By the way, yesterday the reason, it was a very simple reason. I just moved the domain file inside this folder and it started working. So earlier this was outside. I'll show you. See here. Earlier I placed it in the domain. So yesterday I moved it inside this after the class and everything was working. So once that is done, we have the domain. The domain is mapped to an entity. Entity means a single row, and it is mapped to a table, and we have the primary key and auto generation. What all we give in the database side, we give a mapping here. A column refers to something in database. This is the POJO. This refers to the value in the POJO. Then we have the username. So we have I am mapped, the is active. All these I am mapped. Once this is done, in the controller, I'll go and I will start querying. So inside the calculator method, just for showing purpose, I have called this repository object. This object I have injected here. I have auto wired, I have injected. So it is going to automatically inject the bean, which is DI or IOC. And I'm calling the find all. When I call the find all, I will be getting the find all is going to return a list of users. So I assign it to a user and I print the user. So let me start it. Before the class, I tried it. It has printed or okay. So I start this server now. Since we have seen all the Hibernate in detail in the standalone, I'll skip through giving all those details. After this, I will give a overall architecture of what we have covered so far in the training, just to refresh the memory and to give a high level, or not a high level, some moderate level understanding of what is there, what all has been covered. You can clarify your doubts if you have something. Okay. So the application has started in port 8080. So I go and hit the calculator. You should see that the result has come in. See here, this is what I've given. So user ID, username, Sunday, and is active. These are the 4 columns in the database. So all these have come up. The entire row has come in. I can do more queries if I want. Instead of find all dot, so find all by example, it's the same as criteria. So if you understand what we did previous week, it is same. So save all is there. There should be a save method. Yeah, there is a save. So save and flush, delete by ID. So find by ID. Yeah, find all by ID. So these are all pretty much same methods which we covered. Okay. So this is what it is. We have integrated the Hibernate in Spring Boot, and we have triggered the database query and we have pulled in. So now I'll go and I will explain the high level architecture of where we are and what we have done so far. Okay. So what we have covered so far. So um, the entire we wrote a web application. So let us take this as a server. The green is a server. So this is something fresh. I am starting to go over the things. So you can, if you have missed like all of these class, you can try to understand now. And this is a client. Let me utilize. Okay, so this is going to be a server, and this is a client. Oh, to change the language. This is a client, and the server is this is a Tomcat server inside Spring Boot, and client, we have not gone into client separately, but for now the client is a JSP which we are using. Okay, and so inside the Spring Boot, we are having the first layer, which is the controller layer. The second layer, which is the service layer, and the third layer, which is the DAO layer. And we have the database. We have a database. And we have a ORM layer. This is part of the DAO layer. So this is a controller, and this is service, DAO, and this is the ORM or JPA layer. DP. So when A web page is accessed by the client, and when a request is given, when a button click happens. Let's take here button click. When a button click happens, from here the control first goes into the controller. The controller passes on to the service. Service passes on to the DAO. In the DAO, we use ORM to query. We don't hit the database directly. And ORM is going to give the result back to DAO. DAO is going to send back to service, service to controller, and controller is going to show back the result in the grid. This is a high level. Okay, these are the results. Okay, so is this one is clear? This is what we have achieved so far. Any questions in this?
Yeah, I'm good, Rajesh.
Okay.
Just it's clear
Okay,
for
sure.
me.
Yes, please. Okay, so with this, how did we achieve this? Few terminologies or what all we have learned, I'll write it here as a note. So how did we achieve these passing of the control using auto wiring? Using auto wiring, we injected these things. So this has a DI and IOC, which is a dependency injection and inversion of control. And Spring Boot, we also learned a logging layer. Logging using AOP, which is aspect oriented programming. So we have the AOP. So we did logging. We configured Spring Boot for logging, and all the controls which are happening, the control flow which are happening in the layers across the layers will be logged. So that is the AOP. And after that, for this we used Log4j. So, and we are using component scan here, and in ORM layer we use the annotation driven configuration. Okay. So anything else? Yes, here we used JSPL, which is Java Server JSP tag library. So JSTL we used to iterate the result here and display it. And one second, let me see what else. Yeah, and we also build one REST controller to create a REST API. Or it's a REST controller. Yes, we also added a filter. Actually, the filter will be somewhere here the filters will be somewhere here. So this will be filters. So we added a filters. And then yeah, the entire process we used Maven. Okay, so I think web application level, this is what we covered. So the key terminologies from this session in this web application development with Hibernate is so you should be knowing, or you should know what is how the data is transferred from client to server, and server which is the receiving end, and in the server how is the data passed across layers, and how the data is queried in the database, and how it is passed back to the different layers, and then okay, how are objects initialized? Yeah, something very important here we saw about the session factory. No, not session factory, it is bean factory. Session factory is in Hibernate. So we have the bean factory here. And what are filters? Filters are the one which restricts the entry of a URL into our system. So that's the duty of a filter. So you should know what is a filter and how to configure the filter. And then what is an AOP? Which is an aspect oriented programming, a beautiful. The regular functionalities can be weaved together so that we need not repeat again and again the functionalities, and the entire process, we don't have a Tomcat server because it is embedded inside a Spring Boot, and once we start the Spring Boot it automatically starts the Tomcat. So that is what we saw. And then
Day by day, it's just.
I'm sorry.
I think it's take for me more time to practice this one. Just the whole your experience is telling in one picture.
Yeah, it is a lot. And then no, you have to just practice. You have to allocate time, and but the good thing is once you are in a project, you will automatically learn these things. Just a high level is enough. You will automatically know what is what. Slowly, once you start using it, right, you will be understanding. And this I will save it. And we also learned about web services. Yeah, the REST services, and we saw about the web services, the SOAPs, REST client, all those things. And yes, I think that is it. We have covered in the web application. Let me switch over to stop sharing. Let me switch over and open up the Okay, so Hibernate, JDBC driver basics, design patterns are something huge. That itself is a different story. I'll try to cover that at the end. We have nearly 10 plus design patterns. So I have to, it will be too high concept, but I'll try to accommodate basic one or two design patterns because that is commonly asked in interview. What design patterns do you use? So that's, so why Hibernate person? Yeah, all these I gave enough data, architecture, dialect. Yes, everything is done. Mapping one to one, one to many, and many to one is done. One to one is simple, very simple. If you know one to many and many to one, you can use it, and one to one will be rarely used. Okay, these are all done. So I'll go back. Microservices, no, I'll take it. Yeah, Spring Hibernate integration done. So Struts Hibernate, I'm not going to take because it is out of scope. No one uses it. So all these are done, and DOM, DTD, and yeah, I can tell about DOM, DTD, and schema, which is something very important for web service development. So the way it works is like this. I'll tell something basics about the DOM and DTD. Okay. Oh, the whiteboard is still retaining. It didn't go. Okay, how do I go to next page here? Do I have a next page? No. I will clear everything. Yes. So the web service, the way it works is we saw that web services are okay. There are three types. No, one is the initially developed, which was done in SOAP, which is simple object access protocol, and it is in XML. The recently developed is a JSON based, and it is called as REST and JSON based. Now something else is also coming popular. I don't remember the name now, but I worked on it like a couple of weeks ago. More simpler than the JSON. Shopify. All these people were using it for integration purpose, but I don't remember the name. Okay, so these are the three ways by which the server exposes its business logic data. So as a client, we have we can choose these ways to talk with the web service and in return get back a response. So when we call a web service, we'll ask like what is the temperature. I showed the temperature as example. We'll be getting back as a response. And in SOAP, we'll be getting back as an XML. Input is XML, output is also XML. Here, so it is XML, XML. And rest, it is going to be JSON and JSON. This one I don't remember. I'll find it out. I used it like few weeks back. Okay, so these are the two basic things. For the JSON, it is straightforward. The REST API will tell us this should be the JSON format and this will be the output JSON format. For SOAP XML, we have something called as DTD. I'll see one sample DTD. So if you get, okay, I'll see if I'll get a 1 second web service sample URL WSDL, which is web service definition language. Here it is. I got one. I got a sample web service definition, WSDL. We call it as WSDL. So if you are working with any web service projects, you will be given an endpoint. If you put that endpoint, you will get an XML. But why am I not getting it? I'll try this. No. We sample WSDL URL. These are not okay. Currency converter. Let me see. Still, this doesn't come. Try this. Maybe I'll try a new window. The service is no longer supported. Okay. Or I'll take this. Yeah. So you can see a screenshot here. This is how the web service definition is. So this is what you will be. No, this is a request. This is a SOAP envelope, and this is a request, and this is a response. So I'm sorry, this is a request and response. These will be coded in the DTD. We have the. If I show you one WSDL, you'll understand it better. 1 second. Sample WSDL file. Here it is. So this is how a sample WSDL will be. If you are working or if you get a chance to work with a web service, the first thing you should ask and you will be given is a WSDL file. We call it as WSDL, which is web service definition language. This is a web service definition language, and this will have the complete definition of how the XML should be. You cannot give anything beyond this definition. Your XML tags should be only restricted to whatever is given here. So that is what the WSDL means, and we have a DTD, which is data definition. If you see in this document, the WSDL name is given. The XSD name is schema.snowboardinfo and XSD. If you see this XSD, no, there is I don't know why these are not accessible. So you will get an XML like this. Like this should be the input. This tag should have these many subtags inside. These are all allowed. So all those things like use literal. So like this, we'll have a complete definition. What is this? This is also Wisdom. Sample access default. Yes, and XSD will be like this. This is an XML. The XML schema will be like this. So XS is an element, XML schema element. The element name should be shipped to, which means your XML when you send to web service should be shipped to, and inside that you can have these values: name, address, city, and country, and all these can be string, and these should be given inside the ship to. So this is a definition. This is what we call as DTD. We call it as a DTD, and we call it as a schema. It is a schema means the sample template of how the database should be. That's the schema. And we have a DOM, which is again the same, the document object model of the XML. If we open the XML in a browser, we can just navigate through the tree. If you use SOAP UI, you can see that. But otherwise, the basics of DTD is a definition of how the XML should be. See here, so they have given. Now we can define the item element. This element can appear multiple times inside a ship order. So max occur unbound. This can occur inside a ship order element. This is specified by setting the max occur of the item.
Rajesh, sorry to interrupt in the middle.
Yes.
These ones, as you told before, this one is going to act as the middle one in between the endpoint URL and the server, what we want to get the details.
No. This is a reference to the developers to form the XML when they are going to send to the API.
Because I'm keep on asking the same question because I'm not my mind is not capturing the correct thing.
Yeah, you tell me exactly like which all you understood and where you are missing. I'll try to fill that gap.
Actually, before you told that the REST API SOAP UI, right?
Yes.
I'm talking about that one.
Okay.
Yeah, that one is, what's the purpose of using that one? Just to fetch the details from the...
No, yeah, to expose the data, not to fetch.
Okay.
You let us say I gave the example of a temperature company, right? As a temperature company, I will be having multiple people deployed across the world. I will be collecting the information, and now I want to sell that information. Whoever wants to get the data of the region temperature, they can ask me through an API. I'll expose a REST API, and they can just hit it. In this case, I think we have one exposed, right? We have written a API.
Yeah, I remember the temperature. I know that.
Yeah. Now we have written a API, right? This one. This we wrote a REST controller. See here, REST API controller. Here we wrote a test API. Get address. Let's take this get address. So get address is a method. Okay, it has to be accessed by the UI. What is the UI? ADC, ARC. Okay. So I have the address data. Now you are going to ask me the address of the employees. how you will ask, either you will ask me through email, I'll give you an Excel. But every time sending an email, I should be available to reply you. And it will delay. So what we do, I'll tell you, you don't email me. You don't send out any information or wait on me. I will give you one, here it is. I'll give you one address, a endpoint. You hit the endpoint.
We can call that endpoint as API.
This is the API.
Okay.
This endpoint is the API.
API full form application.
Application programming interface.
Okay.
So I'll give you an endpoint, and anytime, irrespective of whether I am available or not, you can hit the endpoint and get the data. You can show it in your application.
Okay. The same thing what you showed before in SOAP UI, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now here, the request URL is the API.
Yes, correct. So this is the API. So we have a reqres.in, their website. They have an API. The name is users, and they send out this reply. The first user name is George. Second user is Janet. So as they keep adding into the database, I can query here and I can see, instead of calling them, instead of sending an email to them, I'll use their endpoint.
Okay. We have APIs, we have REST API.
So APIs, this endpoint can be created using REST and SOAP.
Okay.
That is web service and REST service.
Okay.
Now you don't know, by looking at the UI, you don't know whether it was created through a REST or an SOAP, which is an web service.
Whatever it may be, the same work,
Yes.
the same functionality here.
The functionality is same, but the way you call is different. For a REST API, as I showed, the input is a JSON. For a web service, the input is an XML.
Okay. And one more thing, Rajesh, you are showing that one, the XML format, you know.
Yes.
Actually, in my project, we are establishing one application with the third-party vendor. They given the same XML document, the XML, the doc, and the link to register in the cloud, and they will get the authentication. Why they are sending?
They will give the key, authentication key. When you hit the API, you have to pass it. Otherwise, any person should not call the API, right? Only when he is an authorized person, he should be allowed. Because they may have sensitive data. Not anyone from the crowd can access and get the data. You should be an authorized person to get the data. So you should register with them, get a key. When you send the XML request, along with that, you have to send the key.
Okay, and one more thing, why they are sending that XML, that doc?
WSDL, right?
Yeah.
WSDL is the specification, web service definition language. That is like, to tell an analogy, it's like an application form. Let us say you want to register to a bank. You approach them, they will give you an application form and you fill it and you send it. You give it, right? It is a form of their template. You cannot get a form from bank A and send it to bank B. Correct?
Yeah,
it's a unique template which every bank needs. The same way, the unique input and output data which every web service creator wants is given in WSDL.
Could you repeat the statement again, Rajesh?
The unique or the input and output data formats, or we call it the templates, what all has to be sent in the web in the web service API, what all can be retrieved, how you have to send it, what is the format of the data you have to send it, what is the XML tags, all the information which the API creator wants, that will be coded as a WSDL and given to every single customer. It is like a template.
Yeah,
Or
it's
the
like a template. Yeah, it can be like a notepad. It can be like a MS Word, any document, right? Because why they send in that XML format?
The reason
That's
is,
uh-huh.
yes, the reason is, if you have a WSDL in Java, .NET, there are jar files or classes available to read the WSDL and automatically generate the classes. That's a totally, I'll try to explain a very high level. That's a totally different story.
Okay.
The reason is how, one second, let me share the
Because
screen.
for all the applications, whatever it may be, they are sending some XML form because uh, internet it doesn't tell right for me why
Ah,
this is the
let-
time to ask and to clear my doubts.
yes, sure. So this, I said that for SOAP or web service, or the web service, for the web service, the input output is an XML. For REST, the input output is a JSON. JSON is nothing but a text format. Okay, there is you can send it using Notepad and you can receive it. Just a plain text is what is REST. Now JSON is what, just a plain text. But XML, you should be able to. XML is not an easy thing to form, right? XML needs tags, starting tag, end tag, in the middle the tag should be there. This is an XML, correct? If you have an output starting tag, the ending tag also should be there. If you have this tag, you should have the proper closing tag. The double quote should be same. It's a proper format of XML. And one more thing is, how it works is, the web service cannot be called directly. To access a web service, we need something called as stubs and skeletons.
Here the web service we're telling about the REST API, the endpoint.
No, REST is different. REST is a JSON. You will not have a WSDL in REST. If the web service, if the service, let's take it as service. The service can be REST or web. Okay, there are two types of service. A REST service producer or a company which has created its API as a REST service will not give you a WSDL, because WSDL itself means, W means web service definition language. So WSDL means the API is written in web service. 100% you can confirm. So if someone is giving you a WSDL, they have written in web service. And web service, calling a web service is not easy. We need a stub and skeleton. These are classes. These are called the client side and server side classes to call web service. This it's a very detailed story, but I'll tell very high level. Just have that to access a web service, you need to generate stub and skeleton classes. This will be around 20 to 30 files approximately, depending on the input and output. Okay, so to access a web service, you have to create around 30 files, which is very tough to do manually. So if they give us a .WSDL, we have Java classes which can automatically create the 30 files.
Okay.
That is the reason they provide the WSDL. Every time creating these 30 is just an example. In a big service, it will be like 100 plus files, 100, 200 files will be there. and you cannot create that files manually. It doesn't make sense to create also, because the many will be redundant code, that those codes will be internally calling the web service. That's a total different technology. Calling the web service, we have to then create a hook, and we have to call the skeleton object. So it's totally a different uh, once you work on that in detail, that will be helpful to you. But just understand that WSDL, the reason they give WSDL is, using WSDL, you can automatically create a client classes, stub and skeleton. Confused, still?
Yeah. Okay, just
no, that to tell you.
that means Rajesh, the file, the XML format file, it is going to read by the web service, and the one we have like two boxes, right? Here, the web service, the right side we have like stubs and skeleton.
Correct. Stubs and skeleton will be in your machine, the client machine. That will send out that will create the XML data, that will send out the XML data to web service. Only a stub and skeleton can talk with a web service.
Okay, the stubs and skeleton talking language, we can say like XML format.
XML.
Okay.
To create stubs and skeleton, we use WSDL.
Okay.
You
That's
can create stubs.
Okay.
That is why they give the WSDL. You can create stubs and skeleton manually, but it will take a week time. If you have WSDL, it will take like 10 seconds to create 200, 300 files. It is automatic.
Okay.
So that is, and why we need stubs and skeleton? Web service is designed that way. Only a stub and skeleton can access it. That is the way it is designed. Without that, we cannot access the web service.
Okay.
So
and they will give that file, right? That XML file.
They will give the WSDL.
The WSDL.
You can generate stub and skeleton. It is universal. If you know WSDL, there are many programs available in the internet. You just download it and you give the URL endpoint. Eclipse can do it. Eclipse will generate automatically.
Okay. And one more thing, is by that file we are going to test in our client mission and then web service.
Yes. From the client mission you can test as a standalone. I'll try to see if I can get a test web service tomorrow.
Okay.
I can generate the stubs and skeleton and I can show you.
Okay. Rajesh.
So yeah, no problem. So this WSDL is the template, and as I said, analogy, you take this case. You have two banks. When you approach and you want to register with the bank and get an account opened. The first bank, it says, hey, you want to open a account? Okay, this is a format. You fill it out and give it to me. It's a very one page. It's a simple format they are giving. They are not telling any complex thing. And you can fill it out. You are easily filling it out and giving it in like 10 minutes or 20 minutes time. The second bank, what he is telling is to open account in our bank. This is the format. So if you look into the format, in that format itself, it says every line is having separate format. First point, you have to fill form A in this format. Okay, where is form A? Here is form A. Second point, you have to fill form B in another format. So to fill out one application, you need another 10 to 20 application formats, different formats. Even if you put a letter, single letter, caps or small one letter comes out, they will strike out the entire thing. The second bank is so strict. Now, to fill out that second bank's form, let us say one person is available. What he tells, you don't worry. You give me the format which the bank is asking. I will generate the 20 to 30 formats, whatever he is asking. In a neat way, you just give me your data. That's all he is asking. So you approach him, you give him the data like, okay, my name is so and so, I am from so and so. These are the details. he will give you 20 separate forms of all exact format how the bank is expecting. You go and give it to the bank, immediately you are approved. This is web service. The first case is REST service. Just an analogy, web service is very strict, very complicated, very secure. REST service is not strict, not complicated, less secure.
Okay.
REST is easy. REST is easy for everyone, but REST is also getting evolved and security is increasing. But web service is a nightmare. Web service is very tough. But if you understand, it is very easy. Again,
Okay.
I'll see if I can get a web service to make things clearer. Since
And
we
one more
have
thing,
a,
Rajesh, where we are using REST and where we are using this web.
depends on entire like purely on the customer. If you are opening a company and you want to expose your data, you can decide you want to go with the REST or web. There is no hard and fast rule on these are the areas you have to go on web and REST.
Okay.
And it's entirely up to you. People now prefer REST.
Okay.
Yeah, so this one I'll mark it and I think only basic concept is needed. Only these have to be taken. Other than this, then I can go to basics of Angular and I can show you how to connect Angular with this Java.
Okay.
Yeah, this and all I covered interface.
But it's good, Rajesh, just the overall, just I got something. And yeah, if any client asks something, I have in my mind something to answer right now.
Yeah.
That is the basics, and
Yes, definitely.
because wherever we go, just if you know the all things, the overall things, we can answer. If you know little bit things, we can't.
Right. That's true. Yeah, that is true. Okay. So I think majority of the syllabus is over. So let me speak with like let me speak with Kumar or Satish. I don't think like we don't have much more to cover. We don't have anything for as a major to have in another like 15. I think we are nearing 40 classes, I guess. I have to see. But for 20 more classes, we don't have that much of thing. J unit, I'll take it. J unit and Mockito, that will take like one hour only, hardly. Design pattern, I'll take. This might take like 2 days to 3 days. Microservices, I'm going to take only theory on that. It is very difficult to show it hands-on. And yeah, I can cover something on JavaScript, Angular, and HTML. And yeah, the custom tags, VL, and all I gave basics of this. These are all okay. And JVM, thread, these all will take 1 day only. So maximum another like 5 to 10 days only I might need. So I'll speak with him to see if, what else can be taken. Like if something else can be, I'll see first. If instead of this session management, I said I'll be taking session in the spring. So I'll see if I have something important, I'll take it up. Okay.
Yeah, sure, Rajesh. Thank you.
Yeah. Otherwise, so we have finished the Hibernate standalone Hibernate theory and Hibernate integration with the Spring Boot. So the majority of the course is done with all core things covered. Now we just have basic things to be finishing, test cases, all those things. So that we'll take it up slowly. Every day I'll take one. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So meet you tomorrow then.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.